morning, I get the chance to sit down and talk to Kaycee Colburn, who is both a tour guide for the Hinsdale House and also a medicine worker who has been trying to help heal its lands. Hi, Kaycee. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for meeting with us. Can you talk a little bit about who you are and what your relationship to the house is?
So I'm Kaycee Colburn. I run the tours for the Hinsdale House. I also do the gardens, and I do what I call medicine work for the property.
And have you noticed any sort of energy shift since beginning that work?
Yes. Ever since I started bringing in the positive energies, doing the offerings, doing the blessings, the house is very homey feeling now. You know, it's kind of nice. So.
Yeah. What is the history of the land in relation to Native Americans?
So there was a small Native tribe that was in the area, or the Allegheny people. They were believed to be Mounds people. They were much smaller than the Senecas. During the Revolution, it's thought that Corn Planter actually wiped them out because they would have been kind of like a thorn in his side. He did try for peace, so it's not like he didn't try that first, but unfortunately that's just the way it was.
So last night when we were there, we had some activity that would suggest that the energies that are attracted or attached to the woods are different from that of the pond, which is different from that of the house. Have you noticed anything like that?
There's a whole difference in just the areas. So the pond has like a lot of elemental activity. There's also like the boy that's down there, the woman in white. The house itself is its own entity.
We actually saw a deer last night on the property, and when we, you had mentioned that there was kind of an energy connected to the deer on the land. Would you be able to talk about that?
Yeah, so it actually started with like a dream that I had where I saw the woman in white. She was over by the pond. I was looking out the window in the living room facing the pond. She stopped, we made eye contact, and she like a crazy person, ran right to the house. The house in the dream actually boarded itself up, and then I wouldn't let her in at all. And so I woke up, told Dan, the owner of the house, and went back to sleep, was still at the house. And then I was looking out Mike's room towards the driveway, and the man of the house was coming down the drive, and he was holding up a deer. And I ran outside, told him, "Don't be out here, there's a witch." And he chuckled and said, "You don't have to worry about her anymore." And we went into the house. That was the end of the dream. And I think it was like a couple of days later, I was talking to some of the volunteers at the house, and we're looking out that window towards the pond, and the deer did the exact same mannerisms. It was totally creepy.
Yeah, that's bizarre. One of our team members was scrying last night, looking into sort of a black mirror. He saw a man, like an old man with a long beard, and then his face morphed into that of a deer. So I didn't know if that's something any connected to any sort of native beliefs, or if that was just kind of a random happenstance.
I'm actually thinking maybe it's more of a warning.
It's interesting that you use the word warning, because we had another team member who was listening to the spirit box who had headphones on and couldn't hear what was going on, and she said warning right before he saw that.
Yeah, that's what I kind of got from it when you said it.
We want to be very respectful. That's like one of our main goals, but we also, want to try to connect with whatever's there. Do you have any suggestions for how to do that? We don't want to really insert ourselves into anywhere we're not welcome.
I mean, if you wanted to say thank you, you can say Yahweh, which means thank you. You can also give an offering of tobacco, and basically for that you're just going to take a pinch of tobacco, and then you can just give it to the earth, or if you wanted to burn it, you can offer it up as a smudge.
That's good to know. Thank you so much, Kaycee. It's been really great to talk to you and hear your perspective.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm always happy to help.
Ty
and I decided to go to the Olean Library to see if we could find the original newspaper article on the Hinsdale House.
We're at the Olean Library because getting records from old newspapers is really hard online if there's gaps, but we called ahead and found out that they have a microfilm section, so we're going to try to find the first reported story that broke that made the Hinsdale House haunted to see if it fills in any gaps. So come away with us. So I was super pumped to actually be able to go down to the Olean Library. Those stories there are the Hinsdale House without 50 years worth of story growth. So I think that's gonna be pretty cool to dig into, to see how big the mythos has become.
So this is a fireman, 1978.
Libraries are very underutilized. I was really glad that we got to go to the local library and see what we could find. It gave us a moment to connect with Clara's history and her experience with this house. We were able to find an article on their experiences 3 years into owning the home.
One thing that I find very interesting that the author noted on was the fact that Clara said that in addition to the hauntings, the woman feels both her 13-year-old and her husband have undergone distinct personality changes. The daughter has been making more and more unfounded accusations, a switch from her quieter self, while the father has gotten into extremely irritable for no apparent reason right after visits that the psychic or the priest exorcist makes of the house. It could be paranormally based, but also dealing with stress like that for 3 years, living in a house, it would make sense that it would start to break someone down.
There's so many legends with the Hinsdale House that have grown and grown and grown, but we really wanted to take a moment and kind of hear Clara's words and see where this all started, and going to the library gave us that moment.
So Ash and I just got here and we're about to talk to Paul Kenyon, who was friends with the Dandy family here during the exorcism, and he has spent so much time here. Hi, Paul. Thank you for coming and talking to us.
You're welcome.
So you grew up here?
I met the Dandies in 1973, and I met the family and heard their stories about, you know, the knockings and the furniture dragging around the house, and I thought, yeah, okay. Because I didn't believe it. But as time went on, I learned to really understand that these people have a problem within this house. There's something going on. Yeah. In this house, you must be careful. You have to be on your guard. Most of the time, it's wonderful. It's quiet, it's serene, it's a very nice place just to be relaxing. And then, bam.
That's what happened to me in the
And it's so
kitchen.
weird.
Yeah, that's been our experience too.
Yeah. I want to tell you an incident that happened Labor Day. We had a picnic. Father Al was here, the family, myself, my fiance, and we were having a good time. But when I walked in the back door, Laura, the middle child, she was my barometer for this house. When there was something wrong, I'd look to Laura, and I know what I should be sensible about what might be going on in the house. I walked in, and Clara was just rushing through the kitchen. And I said, "What's going on?" She said, "It's bad." We were up here and we had a picnic, and it didn't last long. We expected to be here till like 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock, just having a good old time, but we left about 3 o'clock. And I was home and I was doing what I had to do, and I was just doing my normal everyday routines. And Father Al called me about, I think, 7:45, between 7:30 and 7:45. And I started small talk with him, and he cut me off. He said, "Oh, a real quiet man, very quiet little guy." And he said, would you go back to the house with me for Clara?" I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "All hell has broken loose." So Father Al picked me up, which that never happened. It only happened twice, during the exorcism and this date. We got into the driveway and pulled around to the back of the house, and this, where the yard is now, used to actually be parking. It was all dirt. So we pulled up kind of like even with the house and underneath the upstairs windows. And when I got out, I looked up and I waved to Clara. At least I thought it was Clara. Or it could have been Beth upstairs too. Her bedroom was down here in the living room. I waved to her, and just just as Father got to the door, here comes Clara and Phil around the side of the house. And I looked up again, and the woman wasn't there. Jeez.
I know.
The woman wasn't there. And I told her, and she said, yeah, well, keep looking, because you're going to see more.
It was really neat to hear firsthand from somebody who was present during the Dandy family's time here during the exorcism with Father Trebold and Alex Tanis. That was really cool to hear about that experience. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, were you there during the exorcism?
Sitting in that doorway with two of the crew members. Yeah.
Okay, so it was Father Trebold and Alex Tanis were there. Can you tell us a little about that night?
When they started the exorcism, I was in the doorway over here. We looked like, in my book, I said we must have looked like a three-headed monster because the three of us squeezed right in here in chairs, kind of angled, and we were watching the exorcism. And right toward the end, all you could hear, and this is something else that is so puzzling, a cross between a banshee, a little baby crying, or a cat in heat, or something like that. But it was within the whole house. It wasn't coming from anywhere. It was everywhere within, like the house was trying, which, it sounds to me crazy, but that's what we heard. And the guy standing in front of Beth's room when everybody started talking about it, he said, shh, it's still going on, quiet. And then he said he heard a voice. Those are the kind of things that happen up here all the time. Or you could be sitting down here and you'd hear a dresser go across the room. There's nobody upstairs. Those are the kinds of things that happen with the Dandy family. But after the exorcism, myself, and there was 3 other people on the floor, but I said to Mike Dandy that I don't think it took. It's still here. I feel that weird feeling. I don't even know how to explain
Uneasy,
it.
maybe?
Well, Jan overheard me. She said, will you say that tomorrow during the documentary? I said, no. Who am I? I'm just a 21-year-old rock musician. I'm going to tell some, great psychic that he's wrong? Father Al didn't show up at the documentary the next day. He didn't come. He didn't want to be involved. I didn't know for 25 years why. And when I came back to Olean in '99, I went right to the rectory and I rang the bell, and the priest came out, and I said, is Father Alphonsus Trebold still here? He said, he is. I said, God, can I please see him? Excuse me. Very dear friend. And he passed away in 2005. But we talked about the house, but we didn't talk about the house. I did ask him, why didn't you come the next day? He said, because I know it didn't work. He said, that house will never be cleansed. In his estimation, you can go through Father L's archives at the university. You can go through his personal belongings. That man was decades ahead of paranormal investigations. But Father was a remarkable man, and he knew that this place had serious trouble, but he didn't know what. He actually didn't know what, and the man would have known anything about this.
Yeah.
But he couldn't come to a conclusion as to what would cause all this craziness with the family. And since then, it's gotten worse. I think the place is more haunted now, but it's haunted by deviant things sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was it Alex who believed that the exorcism was successful, Alex Tanis?
Alex felt that he was able to push away the energy of the spirits, that they wouldn't bother the family anymore. Okay. When Alex came to the house in fall of '73 at Father Al's bequest, after giving a lecture at the University for Paranormal Activity, he came up and he walked through the house and he said, there are 7 spirits bothering you. I went out into the kitchen, and when I walked behind Alex's chair, I touched his shoulder. Take that balloon, rub it on your hair, and put it to your shirt. It's the same thing.
Staticky feeling?
Same same static. He's full of power. How can a human be that way? But that's what I felt when I touched his shoulder. I felt, woo!
So during the Estes session with Carol in Mary's room, Anna asked the question, how many people are in this house? And Carol replies, 7. At the moment, we didn't really think anything of that, but then hearing from Paul the next day and reviewing Alex Tannis's book, Alex actually said that there were 7 spirits when he visited the house back in 1973.
Thank you
so much for coming out with us.
You're very welcome.
Yes, I'm so glad we got to talk to you. This has
You
blown
are
my mind.
a great bunch of people.
I loved his stories. I loved what he had to say because I feel like he was a no bullshitter. I really believed what he had to say. I'm glad he had some input.
Last night was interesting in the aspect that it provided us with more questions than we're getting answers. Its lead points bring us in different directions, so we have to come up with a really concise game plan today to actually hopefully open communication channels.
Are we okay if we don't find answers?
We're gonna have to be.
You're gonna have to be.
Yeah.
Last night's investigation was, honestly, really feeling like a dud for about the first 6 hours. I kind of started to doubt our last investigation here, if any of what we felt was real, if any of what we experienced was beyond our imagination. I'm a bit lost on what I want to do tonight, truthfully. I think I'm a bit disconnected at this point, so probably the first step is to take a moment and try to reconnect myself with the grounds, with the house.
Talking to Paul today, he's like, it is not the haunt that was in the 70s. It was very much haunted in the 70s, but this is different. He's like, this is, and it kind of goes with what I've been thinking is so many people have been in and out of here, so many different investigation tactics, like what's been brought here, what's been stirred up, what was here before.
Right. What have we added to?
What have we added? He felt like stories have been embellished, and I told him that I just wanted to close the gap in between now and when the Dandy family lived there and just feel like it did when they lived here.
I talked to Kaycee this morning, and that was really interesting. She has spent a lot of time on the grounds here doing medicine work and trying to heal the land and connect with the native energies of this area. Like, part of my worry was that we were gonna come in and like see all this stuff going on and then be like, all right, bye, like we're gonna leave it just the way we found it. But
Right.
I feel like in her hands, it's at least, there's like a plan in place, something is gonna happen to heal it, and so I don't feel like we need to take that on. I definitely feel a lot more comforted to know that Kaycee is working on the land. I kind of felt like I wanted to help, but again, I didn't really feel qualified to do that. So to know that there's a kind of a plan already in motion is very comforting. I don't feel like we need to necessarily take that on. So I kind of want to concentrate our energies more on the house.
For me last night, I really want to hold down to our thought that this is a home for us for 2 days, that we also have to investigate.
Yep.
But I would like to do what we talked about last night and create our own cords to the house right off the bat today.
Okay.
Connect to it on that spiritual level. Make sure we cut the cords when we leave tonight, but see if we can kind of just bond with the Hinsdale House off the bat and then go from there. We have all day and all night tonight in order to investigate, and based on Claire's journal, it doesn't matter whether it's day or night here. The activity happens no matter what. So my plan is diving in with both feet as soon as possible.
So you want to pull the board out?
Oh, I think so.
All right.
Yep.
Let's do it.